The second thing you might notice about a leader walking into a room is that they have passion. They have passion for what they do and what they think. These are not milquetoast people. These are not wallflower type people. Leaders are energized by something. Often we call it ambition. And that's okay. There is a good kind of ambition to have. A strong ambition is what gets you out of bed in the morning to go and do something. People who don't have a goal to go toward, why do they get up in the morning? They might as well just sleep in. They might as well not do their homework. They might as well not look for that next job. They might as well not seek the extra promotion. People who are energized, who have a passion for what they're doing, often become leaders in some capacity. Now, in Lincoln's case, he had a strong sense when he would be standing up there on the fence and entertaining the boys around him. He had a strong sense that people would listen to him if he could weave that good story, if he could tell the truth about something that maybe was not said. He loved to imitate, and he mastered the art of reaching out to people and conveying that he cared about something really strongly. And he transitioned in his life from wanting to be just ambitious to make a mark, just to get ahead, which is one kind of ambition, and it's fine, especially when you're young and you're not fully formed yet. You don't know yet where you're quite going. He said, I want to make a mark on life. We know from his letters, he said, I've got to redeem. I come from this primitive existence in Kentucky and Indiana and then Illinois, and I could live my whole life and not make any mark. People would never know that A. Lincoln existed if I don't do something significant. I want to do something significant to redeem the fact that I've eaten lots of meals, I've known a lot of people, I've been part of a great country, but what am I doing with it? So he had a passion initially through his ambition to do something great. But he went the step further. It wasn't just to do something great for the sake of doing something great. He latched on to a problem that this country was having. The problem was not slavery per se. He thought in the long run we would have to deal with slavery. But what Lincoln really latched onto was the problem of the expansion of slavery into the West. He was a Westerner. He understood that for freedom to flourish, slavery could not expand. The first thing you had to do is stop it in its tracks so that it could not expand west. Then we'll work on abolishing it altogether. But the first thing you have to do is keep it contained to the south. And this lit up his passion. Now, a lot of people have passed around on the internet these stories that Abraham Lincoln knew failure after failure after failure after failure and kept rising to become the great person he was through his passion. There's a grain of truth in that, but Lincoln, don't be deceived by these urban legends that get passed around on the internet. Don't be deceived. Lincoln was an extraordinarily successful person. Yes, he had a business or two that failed. Yes, he had some runs in the State House where he did not succeed. Yes, he had a U.S. Senate run where he did not succeed in 1858, but he won the popular vote. Remember, that was before the amendment that changed to the popular vote? He actually won the popular vote in 1858 versus Douglas. So Lincoln had a lot of successes in his life. So don't be deceived by the idea that this was a guy who just was always down and out. That passion kept him successful. A very, very important quality he had. He failed enough to learn from his failures, but not so much that it just beat him down where he couldn't recover. It's very important to understand that he had the passion now to take the successes he had and now do something great for the country. That's what made him an extraordinary human being, to overcome those limitations we just talked about. He saw that slavery would eventually have to be dealt with in this country in its expansion, the Western territories. And he fought like crazy for that. Starting in really the late 1840s, 1850s, he was willing to go against his party even on this principle. He was one of the few people in the one term he served in Congress. He took the most unpopular position you could take when we were fighting the Mexican War. And he stood against President Polk. In the start of the war with Mexico, he said, and this may sound familiar to you today, "I will support funding for the troops, but I oppose the war. And Mr. President, I demand you show me the spot where U.S. troops or U.S. territory was violated by the Mexicans." Because he knew that Polk could not prove through an international treaty, could not prove that the Mexicans actually attacked U.S. territory. The territory was disputed between the Nueces and the Rio Grande rivers. Well, Lincoln was a lawyer, a self-taught lawyer, and he knew that Polk could not prove that. He used his passion then to stand on principle and take very unpopular stands in the public arena. But it's very clear that where his trajectory was. He had a very clear vision, and that's the third thing that you notice about a leader. They're connected to people, they have passion for what they do, and they also have some vision. They have the capacity to imagine something better or something right. That's the third thing that you want to notice about a leader. And if you want to be a leader, it's something that you need to cultivate in yourself. Where do you want your church to go? Where do you want your university to go? Where do you want your football team to go? Whatever group you feel passionate about. Where do you want your state to go? Your county, your nation? Whatever you feel passionate about. That's what you lock onto, and you try to imagine something better. If you find yourself absorbed in that activity, you are on your way to becoming a leader. And my point, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't matter how poor your origins were. It doesn't matter what your political connections were. It doesn't matter how much formal schooling you had. What matters is that you're educated. There's a difference between being educated and being formally schooled. Schooled is what happens when we get inside a building. Education's the hard work that comes when we're reading, we're learning when we're talking to people, we're thinking, we're doing the hard work of thinking. There are a lot of people I know who don't have a college degree who are a lot more educated than the person with a diploma. Lincoln, good example of that. The quality of the leader, though, is to have the imagination to see where to take the organization you care about, no matter what the level is, as I just suggested. And leaders find themselves, wherever they are in life, taking the organization that they can influence and moving it in a better direction. So when Lincoln is a representative in state government of Illinois, he knows it will do the state a lot of good to move the capital away from Vandalia to Springfield. It'll be the whole population of the state is moving north, and so he leads that charge, and he's successful in that. Lincoln had a vision for his state. He wanted Illinois to remain a free state, and it would because of the Missouri Compromise. But all of a sudden, in the 1850s, when the concept of popular sovereignty is introduced, in the Compromise of 1850, which is worked out by Douglas and the great compromiser Henry Clay. Is all this familiar to you from your American history? Compromise of 1850. All of a sudden, states are going to be able to say whether they want slavery or not. And Lincoln was afraid that once that concept took root, that any state eventually, like there'd be a constitutional amendment down the road that would say, okay, we're going to open up every state to whether we'll have slaves or not. Lincoln knew that that's not where the United States had to go. The same country that had generated the Declaration of Independence and said all men are created equal and held out the promise that all human beings would be able to pursue happiness in the way that they saw fit, consistent with integrity and respecting their neighbors, said that country cannot be a country that tolerates slavery and the expansion of slavery over the long haul. So Lincoln was very clear. He had the imagination to see where this country went. He had the imagination to link the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and go all the way forward to what our future would be.